I want to show you all my favorite friendship bracelet ties and how to make all of them. We'll start with the most basic slash classic ties and move our way up to the most complex and my most favorite ties to make of all time. So let's jump right in. So I am going to be working off of this bracelet I made pretty recently. I went ahead and made a loop at the top, and I have all of my ties on the end. If you have a bracelet just like this one with all of your ties on one end, you want to split that group in half. But if you have a bracelet like this one, for example, that I have not finished after so many years, where you have some loose thread on one side and loose thread on the other, you will go ahead and just work off of this one group. But for my example, I am going to work off of a loop with ties. Now, with all of these ties, you do not need to have an even number of strings. Like this one, for example, each group has 7 strands, so I am going to make a random group. And because we are making a braid, as long as you have 3 different groups to make the braid, it really doesn't matter what strings have more or less strands in them. We are going to start with one of the most typical friendship bracelet ties, and that is your classic braided ends. They don't offer very much color coordination, which will make more sense with a lot of the other ties later on, but it's a very classic, simple way to make ties and to make them pretty quickly. So I think this one is going to be the most self-explanatory. I think a lot of people know how to make braids, but just for the sake of the tutorial, I am going to show you guys how to do them anyway. So, obviously, with it being a 3-strand braid, you want to split your strings into 3 different groups. Like I said, if you have ties on both ends, one end is going to have all these strings together, but we have these split in half. So we are going to start off by taking our left group of strands and we are going to cross it over the middle group so that it now becomes the middle group. Sounds confusing, but hopefully it doesn't look as confusing. And then once you have that, you'll take your right group of strands and cross that over the middle, which now becomes your middle. And that is exactly how you make a braid. Take the left group and put it over the middle group, and now it becomes the middle. Take the right side, pull it over the middle group, so it becomes the middle group itself. Again, left group, put that over the middle, and becomes the middle. And that is what you repeat the whole way down. I think really the most complicated part about making braids or even any of the ties is just getting your hand positioning. Because if you're not really used to doing braids or this kind of stuff, or if you're just a beginner completely, this muscle memory slash hand movements, all of it just might feel really weird. So don't worry if your braid is a little bit loose, like my demo at the top here. I feel like the most color coordination you can get out of this is depending on what strings you have. You can put similar colored strands together, like I have all of my reddish strands here, and then my blue strands with this random pink one here, and then I just have a green and yellow. And that's about as good as it can get for color coordinating, at least in my opinion. It's just a very classic braid, and there's just not much to do with it. But we still have the other side to do as well, since remember, we are making ties off of a bracelet with a loop. And like I said before, if you have ties on both ends, it'll just be one full group that you will split into 3 sections. But we repeat the process again. Take your left group of strands, put it over the middle group so it becomes the middle. take the right group, put it over the middle so that it becomes the middle, left group, put it over the middle, and right group over the middle. And that is the whole process until you have them as long as you want them to be. To be honest, I really don't like making my ties that long. I always make my bracelets as long as I need them for my wrist, so I make my ties just a little bit shorter. But I know some people like to make them a lot longer, so how long you need to make these ties is completely up to your preference. And then the most important part that I almost forgot is once you have your ties completed, you just take them all into one big group and tie a simple overhand knot. And obviously tighten this as tight as you can. I know there are kind of fancier ways to finish off these ties, but doing the knot is just going to be the easiest way to do it. I would say these ties make up probably 90% of my collection and probably most of everyone else's collections because this method became very popularized by Masha Knots. She has her own video on these ties, which I will link in the top right corner. So if you find her tutorial more worth watching, feel free to watch that. But I am including this in my video because, yeah, it's one of my favorites. And while it is, in my opinion, much more simple than the 3-strand braid, I still rank it one step higher because it is just so fast to make. And it's really nice. So again, I am working off of a bracelet with a loop at the top. So I'm going to split all of my strings in half. And what you want to do is split your strands into 2 groups. And again, it doesn't matter if the strings are even or not, you just want to have 2 different groups. The only really complicated part about this, again, is just getting the hand positioning to work with you and just not feel really weird. And this might be backwards because I am left-handed. So I will do it how I do it first and show you a different way to do it if that feels better for you. But with both of your groups, you are going to twist them all together in the same direction, and then you'll twist them together in the opposite direction. So with our groups here, I'm going to take the left group first, and I'm just going to spin it this way. And you can spin this as tight or as loose as you want it. I find that the tighter it is, the nicer it looks. And then, while holding on to this twist, you want to take your other group and twist it this direction as well. So I'm just rolling it in between my finger and my thumb, and also kind of using my other hand to help anchor the group. And then once you have these twisted, you will twist them in the opposite direction that we twisted the groups. So remember, we twisted our group this way. So we're going to twist these the other way, so right to left. And if it does kind of loosen up a little bit, you can still pinch it and roll it between your fingers. And then you'll take the left group of strands and cross it over the right group. And just repeat that the whole way down. And you can see I'm pinching and rolling between my finger and thumb with both of them, just so that I can keep this twist pretty tight. If you've ever done like a rope braid on yourself or someone else, this is the same technique, but a lot easier to do it on a bracelet or someone else. And then once you have that as long as you need them to be, you'll just gather all of your strands in one group and tie it in a knot. Now doing the twist like that is going to make sure that your strings don't unravel like this, because they're so tightened up and crossing over each other that they kind of just lock in place. Now on the other side, really quick, I'll show you another way to do this. And you might find this a little bit more comfortable if you are right-handed, or maybe not. Just experiment with however feels best for you. So with our first group here, instead of twisting it this way, I'm going to twist it to the right. And then I'm going to take my other group of strands and repeat that. We're twisting to the right. And of course this feels really weird for me because I don't do it this way. And then once you have that, you are going to take your right group of strands and cross it over to the left. Since we spun it to the right, we're going to take our group, cross it over to the left. And again, right group, cross it over the left. And then just keep repeating that all the way down. And oh my god, I am struggling so hard at this. But you get the idea. This is just an alternate way to do it while still getting the same results. But as you can see, they kind of twist in a different direction compared to the left side. Even though I have this rated up just a little bit higher compared to the last two, I don't really find myself making fishtail ties very often. They honestly are very time consuming to make, and even with as easy as they are, it's just a longer process to work up, especially compared to the twisted ties, which take like no time at all for me. But I rate this one higher because there are a lot of fun ways you can kind of color coordinate your strings to make them look really cool. I will show that on different strings in a second, but I'm quickly just gonna run through how to do a fishtail braid. So again, split your strands into two different groups. And in my opinion, I feel like these ties actually do kind of benefit from an uneven amount of strands. So in my left group, I have 4 strands, and in my right group, I have 3. So I am going to pick out a strand from the left side, and I'm going to cross it over and bring it to the right group. Now, the important thing with fishtail ties is that you don't want to take this strand and put it all the way out to the edge of the right group. You kind of want to put it next to the group, because you're going to take your next strand from your right group here, cross that over all of the strands, and bring it over to the left side. So if you've ever made a fishtail braid on hair, it's kind of the same concept where you're grabbing more from underneath. Like you can already see my fishtail is trying to flatten out all of my strands, and that is exactly what we want. So like on the left side here, I'm picking up the string that is on the outermost left side, and then I'm crossing it over and bringing it over to the right side, and I'm keeping it flat and in line, so to speak, with the rest of the strands. So then from the right side, I'm going to take the outermost right strand, cross it over all of these strands, and again, just kind of keep it in that line. So your hands kind of naturally should be holding out the strands flat like this. So then I'm going to take the next strand from the outermost left side and cross that over the group and move it over to the right side. And then I'll take my outermost right strand, cross it over and bring it to the left group. And if your edges are looking a little bit bumpy, you can hold down the base of the braid here and just kind of pull on these strings, and it'll kind of make your fishtail look a little bit more clean. But that is all you do the whole time, and I think you can understand why this is so much more time consuming compared to a simple 3-strand braid or the twisted ties. But if you just be patient and go through all of this work, you can end up making a really cool fishtail. So if you want to color coordinate your fishtail ends, obviously this is going to depend on the bracelet you make, so this isn't going to work every time. As an example here, say you made a bracelet that only has 2 different colors in it. You're still going to have your 2 groups of strands, but you want to evenly split them. So this bracelet has 4 strands, 2 pink and 2 purple, so I have 1 pink and 1 purple on one side, 1 pink and 1 purple on the other side. So whatever you have, just make sure that you are evenly splitting your colors across 2 groups. So then, when you start making your fishtail, you're going to take one of the colors and make your fishtail braid, bring it over to the right side and put it to the group. And then when you pick up your strand from the right side, it's going to be the same color as your strand that you just crossed over. So I just brought a pink strand over to the right side, so I'm going to bring a pink strand over from the right side to the left. Now, if you have multiple strands of the same color, you can repeat that and do another group of the same color, cross them over. Or you can alternate them like I'm about to do. So on the left side, I'm going to take my next strand, which will be a different color, cross that over to the right side. And then on the right side, I'll take out my purple strand from the outside and cross that over to the left. And when you do enough rows of these, you are going to have just what looks like little hearts on your ties, if this is the route you specifically want to take. Now, alternatively, with your 2 different colors, you can also put one color on one side and another color on the other, and that will also give you a very unique way to make your fishtail ties. Last, but certainly not least, my #1 favorite friendship bracelet ties to make is the 4-strand round braid. This one is definitely much more complicated and might be a little bit slower for people to get into, but once I learned how to make this braid, not only was it really easy to do, I can do it really fast and it just looks so amazing on pretty much every single bracelet I make. For the sake of the demonstration, I am just going to use 4 different strands, but the same rule applies with any actual bracelet. With the loop and ties, you'll want to split these into 2 different groups, and then with this group, you will separate them into 4 different groups of strands. And with ties on both ends, you will just have your one group and separating those. So you're going to start off by taking your outermost left strand, and you're going to slide it underneath the first 2 strands to the right of it, and then you're going to wrap it over the 1 strand to the left of it. And then with the right strand, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to slide it under the 2 strands to the left of it, and then wrap it over the strand to the right of it. And again, outermost left strand, you can see it's the next one to pick up because it's just hanging out here. Slide it underneath the first 2 strands and wrap it over the strand directly to the left of it. Take the outermost right strand, go underneath the 2 strands to the left of it, and then wrap it around the strand just to the right of it. Like I said, very complex, but in a way kind of looks like you are making a regular braid. There's just one little step that you have to make before you can make the braid itself. So like outermost left strand, it's going underneath the 2 strands to the right of it. And then like a regular braid, you know, you bring this quote unquote outer strand to the middle, but you're gonna take that strand and wrap it over the strand to the left of it. So now it's kind of in the middle of this group of 3. With the right side, you go underneath the 2 strands to the left of it, and then wrap it over the string directly to the right of it. It is very difficult to get the hang of this, quite honestly. And usually when I mess up this braid, I end up just needing to start it all over, because even though I do love this one so much, I don't have it completely figured out. So if I lose my place, I completely lose track of it, because it's just so hard to keep up with the string order. Just being completely transparent about that. And really quickly, if you want to also color coordinate your round braid, kind of like I have on this bracelet here, you'll want to make sure that you have all of your strands evenly grouped across 2 different pairs. So I have 2 groups of green and blue strands, 2 groups of red and yellow, and you can also see they are lined up next to each other. And that's how you want this to be laid out, so when you start working on the ties, they will form up in this really cool group. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video today. I really hope that I was able to help you learn something new today that you can incorporate in your own friendship bracelets. If you haven't seen my most recent video before this one, you can go ahead and check it out right here. But YouTube thinks you might like this one. Again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.